Township of Adjala-Tosorontio is situated on the lands within Treaty 18, being the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe peoples, including the Ojibwe, Odawa, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. This land is home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We acknowledge Indigenous peoples as stewards of the land, and we honor their resilience as well as their culture, and of our shared respect for the lands, plants, animals, and waterways, which sustains us all. We recognize the injustices against Indigenous peoples and are mindful that the decisions of government impact our shared land and all the inhabitants. We commit to reconciliation as a journey, foster Indigenous cultural awareness and educational opportunities, establish respectful and healthy relations with Indigenous peoples, continue to steward the land and its inhabitants, and to cultivate an inclusive community for all. Shared land and all the inhabitants. The purpose of this evening's hearing is to consider the applications listed on the agenda requesting a consent for a minor variance to the township's zoning bylaw. The input we receive from agencies, the public, and staff is important to ensure the committee makes well-informed planning decisions. For each application listed on today's agenda, the hearing procedure will be as follows. Staff will provide on the agenda explanation of the application. The applicant or their agent will be asked to provide any comments. Comments from members of the public will be heard or read aloud by the Secretary-Treasurer. Following all submissions, the committee will consider all comments and agenda materials when making a decision on an application. Should you wish to be notified of the decision, you must file a written request with the Secretary-Treasurer. First item is adoption of the agenda for Wednesday, November the 19th. Recommendation reads the agenda for the Committee of Adjustment hearing held on Wednesday, November 19th, 2025 be adopted as presented. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Secretary John and Julius. All those in favor? Motion carried. Agenda for Wednesday. Next matter is there disclosure of pecuniary interest. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest in any of these applications? No. There are none. The adoption of the minutes from the last meeting. The minutes for the Committee of Adjustment meeting October 15th, 2025 to be adopted as presented. Next matter is comments on the minutes. Mover and seconder for adoption. Are there any disclosures? John, have a seconder? Thank you. All those in favor? There are none. Motion carried. The adoption of the minutes. Now we move on to the submissions to be heard. The first one, A-21-25, the property at 1198 Concession Road 8, Adjala-Tosorontio. The purpose to permit the retention and conversion of an existing legally established dwelling into a pool house within the front yard. Whereas Section 3.4E of zoning bylaw 03-56 requires accessory buildings to be located in the side or rear yard. The purpose to permit the retention. Would you please give us a brief explanation of the application?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The application for minor variance is for the location of the accessory structure, that is pool house. It is not for the permission of the use, not for the use as a pool house. And the structure is pre-existing in the front yard. All the other setbacks and other zoning performance standards are compliant. Thank you, Madam Chair. A new principal residence is currently under construction at the rear of the property, and the existing site plan agreement would be updated accordingly. The application was circulated as required, and the planning staff certified that application meets the 4 tests and recommend that it would be approved subject to the conditions identified. Compliance. Thank you. A new principal residence.
Would the applicant or agent like to provide any comments on the application?
The site plan agreement would be updated accordingly. The application was circulated as required, and the planning staff certified that
I don't see any members of the public present. Did we have any written comments?
No comments. Thank you.
Do you have any questions from the members of the committee? Agents like to provide any comments on the application?
Thank you through the chair. I'm just slightly confused at the whole situation here. So there's a house at the front of the property.
I don't see any members of the public present. Did we have any written comments?
2/3 of the way back, and the pool house is going in the rear property.
Thank you through the chair. I'm
I'm just slightly confused at the whole
See, the one on the
situation.
right,
So there's
it says
a house at the front of the property.
I
And
don't
you
see
built
any
a
members
house
of the
at,
public.
well,
present.
like
Do
I
we
have
any
I
written
just
comments?
me personally, it was, and the pool house is the way it was stated to the rear property. I thought the additional thank you building was attached to the new situation. So the front house is going to become.
I don't see any members of the public.
Well,
present.
like
Do
I
we
have
any
I
written
just
original bungalow.
okay. Me personally, that's all. Yeah, and the pool house is the way it was stated. No, it's just I thought it confused me the way it was written up. So thank you, building. Thank you. Attached to the new.
Any other questions?
Situation. So the front house is going to become.
I don't see any members of the public.
No
questions?
Okay, me personally, that's all. Yeah, and the pool house using the way it was stated. No, it's just.
Yeah, well, there'd be quite a few,
Thank you, building. Thank you.
yeah, conditions and recommendations and inspections that will
The
be
front house is going to become.
carried out. Okay, so we can now move on to a decision for application A-21-25. Prior to conducting the vote, I will read the decision for committee consideration. In the matter of subsection 45 conditions and Planning Act, and in the matter of concession 7, East Part Lot 2, in the Township of Adjala-Tosorontio, County of Simcoe, and in the matter of the application of Tom and Christina Miguel as owners of the aforesaid land for minor variance under the Planning Act. And whereas the Township of Adjala-Tosorontio's Committee of Adjustment, having conferred with all applicable agencies and persons as prescribed by the Planning Act, and having had regard to those matters prescribed in the Planning Act, has decided that the request to permit the retention or conversion of an existing legally established dwelling into a pool house within the front yard, whereas section 3.4E of zoning bylaw 03-56 requires accessory buildings to be located in the side or the rear yard, B. And do I have a mover and seconder for approval of the application, Julius? Of an existing and Ron? All those in favor? And within the front yard. Motion is carried. Whereas section 3.4E of zoning bylaw 03-56 requires accessory buildings to be located in the side or the rear yard, B. And do I have a mover and seconder for approval of the application, Julius? Of an existing and Ron? Okay. All those in favor? So we'll move on to the next carry. And you don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. That's fine with you. I was just saying that you don't have to stay for the remainder of the meeting. We have another item now, if you wish. And do I have a mover and seconder for approval of the application, Julius? Of an existing and Ron? Okay. This is item A-22-25. The property at 9045 Tandragee Road, Adjala-Tosorontio, to recognize a reduced retained agricultural lot area of 24.5 hectares, whereas the rural R zone requires a minimum of 36 hectares. This is item A-22-25. Explanation, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The minor variance application has been submitted in support of the related consent application.
To recognize a
The
reduced
variance
retained
seeks to
agricultural
recognize
lot
a
area
reduced lot area of 24.5 hectares for the retained agricultural parcel, whereas the rural zone of zoning bylaw 0357 requires a minimum lot area of 36 hectares. Application has no additional zoning deficiencies are reported, no existing non-compliances are worsened as a result of proposed settlement. The reduction of 0.4 hectares represents a modest change of approximately 1.6% from the existing parcel size. 357 requires planning staff is satisfied that application meets the fourth test under section 45(1) of the Planning Act and recommend the approval of the variance to facilitate the associated severance application. Thank you. The reduction of 0.4 hectares.
We don't have anyone here, applicant or agent. Do we have?
1.6% from the
We have an agent.
357 requires planning staff.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jonathan Pock. I'm a senior planner at Morgan Planning and Development. I've got a brief presentation in which I've grouped both the concurrent consent and minor variance applications that are before committee this evening. I'll just share my screen if you can please confirm. My name is Jonathan Pock. I'm a senior planner at Morgan Planning and Development.
That's fine.
Thank you. Got a brief presentation in which the location of the subject property that's subject to both the consent and minor variance applications this evening is shown on the screen here. It's generally close to the boundary between the Township of Mono as well as the Township of Adjala-Tosorontio. The subject property is located at the end terminus of Tandra Key Road and is located on the south side as shown on the slide. Applications this evening is shown on the screen. The location, as I mentioned, is located on the east intersection of Tandra Key Road and Mono Town Line. The property is currently developed as a single detached dwelling and a few accessory buildings, including a drive shed, a barn, and a small shed. Single detached dwelling is serviced by individual on-site services, including a well and septic. The current lot area is about 25 hectares and has approximately 1,124 meters of frontage onto Tandra Key Road. These two images on the screen just show an aerial of the subject property. The one on the bottom is the full extent of the existing lot fabric as it exists today. Just would like to draw your attention to the developed portion, which is in the northeast corner of the site containing that building cluster, which is more these two images shown on the left-hand side. And then the balance of those lands are currently used by our client, Somerville Nurseries, for the growing of Christmas trees, nursery seedlings, and other ornamental trees. Northeast corner of the site. From a planning perspective, the township zoning bylaw on the left property entirely as rural and is entirely designated in the official plan as rural. Similarly, in the county official plan, the property is designated rural entirely. Northeast corner of the site. The purpose, and as mentioned, I have these two applications into this presentation. I know there is the separate hearing following this one for the consent application, but in efforts to streamline our approach in both of these applications, I'll just speak to both the consent and minor variance applications. So the purpose of the consent presentation is to create one new lot, the separate fronting onto Tandra Key Road, with the retained land hosting the existing single detached dwelling, barn, drive shed, and the agricultural land. These applications I'll speak to both. There is a concurrent minor variance that has been applied for, and as staff has mentioned, is to recognize the lot area of the retained agricultural lot, which is proposed to remain in agricultural production. The severed lot does comply with the minimum lot area and lot frontage standards required in the rural zone for a rural residential use. Lot area of the retained agricultural. This is an excerpt from the proposed lot fabric. On the right-hand side, the bottom image just shows the full extent of the subject lands with the severed lot shown in yellow. Rural zone is separate for a rural residential. Just turn your attention to the left image. This is how it's separated from the existing developed portion of the retained lands and would have frontage onto Tandra Key Road. Full extent of the subject lands included in our application submission was a full planning justification report addressing both the consent and minor variance applications, which demonstrated consistency and conformity with the applicable planning documents and would have frontage onto. Just would like to speak to a few items for our minor variance application. The intent of that minimum lot area provision in the rural zone report has a few consent and minor variance applications. Firstly, it's to ensure that there's sufficient lot area to accommodate a wide range of agricultural uses, and secondly, to ensure the character of that area is maintained. The subject property is an existing undersized agricultural lot, and the severed lot and reduced lot area that is sought through this application would not negatively impact the character of the area, nor would it prevent the character of that area property to be continued to be used as an agricultural use for the growing of nursery trees. And the severed lot, through conversations with staff, there were initial conversations and comments made about the potential servicing of the severed lot. So just a few points that I would like to use as the severed lot is to be serviced by a private well and septic, which is similar to the existing single detached dwelling on the retained land. The size of that severed lot is large enough to accommodate both a building envelope lot, septic, and a well, with the appropriate separation distances that would be required under the Ontario Building Code. Thirdly, the installation of the septic would be subject to a future building permit application, and those separation distances and appropriate soil testing would be done at that time to ensure that the severed lot could accommodate that on-site servicing in accordance with the building code requirements. And then lastly, there's no known future building constraints or servicing issues on the neighboring lot, particularly on the retained lot, which would be serviced by a well and septic currently, which our clients looking to own and operate the building code requirements. Just in summary, the purpose of the application is to bring currently together and the neighboring lot, particularly on the create one new rural residential lot fronting onto Tangerville Road. In conjunction with that, we have applied for the minor variance to recognize the lot area of the larger retained lot, which would contain the existing agricultural use and building cluster. And we have evaluated created one new rural residential both applications in our planning justification report. In conjunction with that concludes my presentation. If there are any questions, I'll do my best to answer the lot area. Thank you. Of the larger retained lot.
Thank you very much for that concise summary of the whole situation. Do you have any questions from members of the committee? No? Any other comments? Did we receive any written comments? Oh, I'm sorry, Ron.
What is the
Thank you very much for that concise summary of the whole situation. Do you have any questions from members of the committee? No?
Has a specific area.
Any other comments?
How much
Did we
or
receive any
what
written comments?
is the
Oh, I'm sorry, Ron.
acreage or hectares of the?
Thank you very much for that.
Is it like half an acre?
Do you have any questions? The severed one would be 1 acre, 0.4 of a hectare, and the retained is 24.5.
Is
I'm
the
sorry, Ron.
acreage or hectares of the?
Well, 36 is the minimum,
Is it
right?
like half an acre?
So 36 is the minimum, and this is 24.5. The retained. The severed one would be. But it's already undersized to start with, and the retained is already less than the minimum. 24.5.
Is the, through the chair, my,
Well, 36 is the minimum.
my only concern
Right?
is,
So 36 is the minimum, and this is 24.5. The retained.
like, if there is
But it's
a
already
lot
undersized
there,
to start with, and the
like,
retained
is there water on
is
site at
24.5.
present?
And the question on the site
My,
has water for a potential well for the new
my only
dwelling.
concern is,
So 36
I could speak to that. I'll just
water.
have the lot
Like,
configuration in
if
front of
there
us,
is
But it's
just so we
already
can
there,
undersized to start
have
with,
it
and the
here. So
is there water
the
on
severed
site?
lot, which is shown in yellow, does not contain
And
any
the question on the
well or
site
septic today,
has water
at
for a
which
potential well
time
for
that
the new
lot
dwelling.
would be developed, would be subject to a building permit for, of course, a dwelling, but also a septic system and a well. Their lot, which is shown in yellow. So, Kurt, to answer your question, there are no services on site today as of today, but there will be developed, at which point in time that lot will be developed upon. Of course, a dwelling, but also your question, a septic system and
Sure that answers
a
the
well.
question.
Their
So, through the chair,
So, Kurt, to answer your question, there are
my
no
concern
wells on
is
site today.
there
As
may
of
be
today, but
water
there will be
on the
developed, at which point in
existing
time that
lot,
will be developed.
but we're
Of course, a
creating
dwelling, but also
a 1 acre lot
a septic system
where there's no
Sure
water.
that answers the
and a well.
question.
And I don't want to have it sold in the future.
My
concern is have no water. There may be because it's a well. It'll be a well existing. You're not going to be joining into, but any municipal service where there's no water.
That answers the question.
And I don't want to. I don't know how you would unless you guarantee that because it's a well, in the sale, that you're not going to be joining into, but any municipal service. That's I don't know how else you'd safeguard. I don't know how you would
Actually tested
unless
to see that
you
there's a source of water there for
you
a well.
that because it's a well in the sale,
Through the chair, no soil testing or I guess confirmation that groundwater could be achieved has been completed. Typically, that would be done through the building permit process. Again, just with I guess the existing well on the main lot, there are no issues within that location. I know it can vary. I guess confirmation that and groundwater can vary from location to location, even in close proximity. But typically, again, that would be building permit. We think that size of that lot again is large enough to find suitable, I guess, potable water to service a dwelling. There are no issues within that location. I know it can vary. I guess confirmation that and groundwater can vary from location to location, even in close proximity. But
if we approve the formation of a lot that doesn't have a water source, or is that our consideration today?
To find suitable, I guess, potable water to service a dwelling. There are no issues within that location. I know it can vary.
Through the chair, I think that this is a common situation that we encounter when we look at new lot creation in the rural area. We don't always,
we don't
require a test well to be created in advance of providing provisional consent. As Jonathan has noted, there are no issues with the well on the property. However, we have no real guarantee that there will be water there, but there is a significant lot area where they can test for a suitable water supply in advance of providing provisional consent. I think as that it's a very common situation with for lot creation. However, we have no real guarantee. To today, we have not been asking for test wells area in support of consent application. Test for a suitable water supply in advance of providing provisional consent. I think
Chair,
as it's a very common situation with lot creation.
I know in Adjala-Tosorontio previously,
today we have not been asking for test
when you took a lot off, you had to supply water. But I mean, this is years ago. To the chair, because I was involved in a purchase of a lot, and one of the issues was the well. We had to pump, make sure that the well would pump a sufficient amount of water to supply a house. But I mean, this now the sufficient amount of water because I was at that time purchased was 2.5 gallons a minute. One of the issues you could have water on this property had to pump, but if it's not the well, 2.5 gallons is sufficient amount of water ministry to supply a house. But I mean, the sufficient amount of water because I was at that I don't know. My suggestion would be have them get a well guy in certify that there is adequate water there and reapply water ministry to supply sufficient. I mean,
sure, we haven't requested that of other lots.
I don't know.
We've created like the lots that we created on the third line of Toss. It's the same type of soil, very sandy. But just created the lots. We didn't so I don't know if we get into trouble by asking that.
So ideally, if a lot's been severed and somebody is proposing to build there,
created like the lots,
obviously at that point, then they would have to
it's the same type of soil, very sandy.
guarantee that there's water there. Otherwise, we're not going to provide planning for them to build there.
Get into trouble by asking that,
or consent to build that. So ideally, would that not be the process? Like somebody's bought a piece of property to build something here. Well, we're not going to give you okay to build there if there's not a source of water. So ideally, if there's water there, that's on the onus of the purchase, really, even though the lot's severed. It's there
by asking that,
or consent to build that. So ideally, would that not be the process? Like somebody's bought a piece of property to build something here.
That could be a condition of purchase, is that that there be demonstration that there's adequate water supply and that the confirmed prior to the purchaser, committing to the sale. I mean, that's one option. That the purchaser may have. I don't think that there's, that could be a lot of examples where the lots have been created that are sterilized because of lack of water. It would be probably a fairly rare occasion when that occurs. Is it possible? I mean, that's one option. It's certainly not something that we encounter. I don't think that there's, I've never encountered it myself, but a lot of sure it could happen. Lots have been created. It'd be really, I think, the purchaser's sort of responsibility, because the applicant right now has no intention of building on the property, I don't believe, at this point in time. So they're not really something that we want to go and dig a well, because they don't know where the septic is going to be or the location of the home is going to be. So really be doing a deep, they just sort of responsibility, because the applicant right now has no intention of building on the property, I don't believe, at this point in time. So they're not really something that we want to go dig a well, because they don't know where the septic is going to be or the location of the home is going to be. So really be doing
somebody comes
a deep,
and
sort of
applies for a building permit.
Right now has
is there a requirement that they have to have water?
I don't believe at this point in time. So they're
To Madam Chair, that is one of the requirements at building permit stage, to confirm adequate water as per what is required as per OBC, Ontario Building Code. They have to demonstrate that at building permit
Is there a
stage.
requirement that they have to
I
have
think if
water?
we have not been requiring that
To Madam Chair, that is one of the
other
requirements
lots
at
that we
building
have
permit stage, to
approved,
confirm
we could look into
adequate
requiring it going
water
forward, but I don't think we could.
as per what is required as per OBC, Ontario Building Code. They have to
In
demonstrate
one
that
case,
at
if we
building
have not
permit
been thinking about that in the other severances that we have not been requiring that exactly the same that we've been granting.
That is one of the
Other
requirements
lots
at
that we
building
have.
permit stage.
Supplement to that.
We could look into
If-
requiring it going forward,
if-
but I don't think we could.
if
As per what is required
There's
as
not
per OBC,
a source of water
they have to
In
demonstrate
one
on the
case, if we
1
have not
acre
been thinking about that in the
lot,
other severances
would they
that
be-
have not been requiring that
would
exactly the
they,
same that we've been
That is
granting.
one of the
expand
Other
it?
lots that we have.
So that supplement to that, you could find water, like if there's
what is required as
water, no water here, but there's water over there on the 1 acre, would that be lot? Would they be?
They could also move
they,
the lot, if that was the
expand
case,
it?
on that road,
So
along
that,
the road, because there doesn't
you
really
could
seem to
find
be,
water,
I mean, I
like
can't
if-
tell why
you
it's
know, like
exactly
if
where it
there's
is on
water,
the,
no water here,
on
but
the lot. I don't know.
no, over there. On the
Can we
1 acre,
ask-
would that be lot? Would they
Yeah,
be-
yeah, they could also move
they,
the lot. Is, the question is,
Yeah.
would you consider expanding or moving the lot if there was no water on it? I can't tell why
You
it's
know,
at
like
the time
where
someone
it
was
is
attempting to get a building
no
permit
water
or
here,
on the
but-
lot. I don't know buy it.
over there. On the
Can we
1 acre,
ask-
would
I
that
can
be
speak to
lot?
that through the chair.
Yeah, they could
If
also
the lot
move
were
the
to
lot.
be
Is
moved
the
in
question
order
is,
to
would you
find
consider
a
expanding or
suitable
moving the lot
water
if there was no
source,
water on
we
it?
would
Can't
need to
tell
come
why
back to the
it's at
committee
time someone
to
was
revise
attempting
our
to get a building
consent
permit or
application
on the
based
lot.
on
I don't know
the
buy
new
it.
location of that lot. So
We ask-
I can speak to that through the chair.
I
I guess you could, but again, the
were
onus would be on
Is the question
in order
is,
to the
would
purchaser
you consider
or a
expanding or
suitable
moving the lot
water
if
source,
there's no water
current
on it?
owner
Can't
to
tell why
determine
it's
whether
at the
there
time
would be a
someone
potable
was
water
attempting to get a
supply
building
available
permit
within
or
the
on the lot. I don't know
boundaries of
buy
the
it.
subrogation of that lot. So
We ask-
just with respect to the, I guess, location of the lot, but again, the onus would be on, explored different locations for the lot, but it wasn't based on the suitable water supply. It was to maintain the separation from the hedgerow trees to the west, as well as the unevaluated wetlands within that pocket of area. Just So with respect to that, the, I guess, kind of location of the lot, our location. the onus would be on explored different locations for the lot, but it wasn't based on the suitable water supply. It was to maintain the separation.
There was certainly a lot of water on the road.
Yeah, so if you look at the maps, you see the two
unevaluated
areas
Yes.
that where they have the wetlands.
That, I guess, location of the lot, or location.
Yeah, it's
Like
right,
if you look on
right here,
page
these
11,
different
are
you'll
the
see
wetlands.
there's wetlands close by,
Suitable water supply
hopefully
was
groundwater.
Yeah.
to maintain maintain a separation.
There was certainly a lot of water on the road. But going back to it, I think we can't impose a new, when we have not been doing that, and it's not part of, it's our here to do that. So, Ron, are you all right with all of that? I know it's a concern, but there was certainly a lot of water on the road. But going back to it, I think we can't impose a new, when we have not been doing that, and it's not part of, it's our here to do that. So, Ron, are you all right with all of that? I know so can we go on to the decision and the vote? So it'll be first for the A-22-25, when we have not been doing and that is the matter of subsection 451 of the Planning Act in the matter of concession 1, East Part Lot 18. So can we go on to less RP 51R27242 Part 1 in the township of Adjala-Tosorontio, county of Simcoe, and in the matter of the application of Fred Somerville Tree and Land Corp. as owners of the aforesaid land for minor variance under the Planning Act. And whereas the township of Adjala-Tosorontio's Committee of Adjustment, having conferred with all applicable agencies and persons as prescribed by the Planning Act, and having had regard to those matters prescribed in the Planning Act, has decided that the request to recognize owners of the reduced retained agricultural lot area of 24.5 hectares, whereas the rural R zone requires a minimum of 36 hectares as prescribed by the Planning Act. And do I have a mover and seconder for approval? John and Horace. All those in favor? A reduced retained agricultural lot area of 24.5 hectares. The second part, property 9045 Tandragee Road, Adjala-Tosorontio, the purpose to create one new 0.4 hectare rural residential lot frontage onto Tandragee Road. A reduced retained agricultural area. Would you, I think we've talked about all of this. Do you want to give a explanation of this one?
Thank you, Madam Chair. There was one we received County of Simcoe's comment after the publication of agenda. I just want to read it for the purpose of it should be noted in the minutes. With respect to the circulation, the County of Simcoe written comment on November 17, 2025, and these comments were received after the committee agenda was. Thank you, Madam Chair. There was one. The County's comment highlights considerations related to rural character, public development, minimum distance separation, and natural heritage protection. All of these highlighted considerations have been addressed within the staff analysis. The county has indicated that it has no objection in the principle to the application. In staff's opinion, the application meets the applicable criteria and should be approved, subject to the recommended minimum distance separation and natural heritage protection. All of these highlighted considerations.
Would you like to provide some comment on this part of the application, or the second application?
Has indicated that it has no objection in the
thank you, Chair. I think my presentation covered this part of the application that's before committee. We have reviewed the staff report and we agree with staff's recommendation to approve it. We have also reviewed the recommended conditions and don't have any objection to those. Thank you, Chair. I think my
any other comments?
This,
we didn't receive any comments.
Application that's before committee.
To a decision for application B-14-25 in the matter of section 53 of the Planning Act.
We have also reviewed the recommended conditions and
purpose to recognize a reduced retained agricultural lot area of 24.5 hectares. Any other comments? Sorry, I'm on the wrong page. I turned the wrong page here. To a decision for application B-14-25 in the matter of section 53 of the Planning Act in the matter of concession 1 East Part Lot 18 retained agricultural lot area of 25.1 R27242 Part 1 in the township of Adjala-Tosorontio, county of Simcoe, and in the matter of the application of Fred Somerville Tree and Land Corp. as owners of the aforesaid land for consent severance under the Planning Act. And whereas the township of Adjala-Tosorontio's Committee of Adjustment adjustment, having conferred with all applicable agencies and persons as prescribed by the Planning Act, and having had regard to those matters prescribed in the Planning Act, has decided that the Land Corp to create one new 0.4 hectare rural residential lot fronting onto Tandragee Road B. And can I have a mover and seconder for approval? Agencies and persons as prescribed by the Planning Act. Those in favor? Motion is carried. Has decided that the Land Corp to create one new. Do we have any new business? Rural
No new
residential
business,
lot
ma'am.
fronting onto carried forward. Road
Nothing.
B.
Thank you.
And can I have a mover and seconder for approval? It is 6:35, and I now declare this meeting adjourned. Thank you. Motion is carried.